Okay, based on the interrogation I just had with my mother's boyfriend, it's probably the only way I can describe him, my mum's boyfriend, who attempted to use, again, medical terminology which he is not qualified to use, to defend his actions on my mother's property when asked why he chose to step by step undo every single thing that I had done on the property in the process of arriving there to negotiate my mother's previous divorce and to keep a light touch eye on her and give her a level of support if she needed it. That why he was instructed that. His only answers were to accuse me of being a lunatic. The exact same strategy that my children's mother used and that her husband used. This is a stepfather territorial condition that is out of control because we have propped up the female thing. No, rightfully, we thought we were doing the right thing, I can guess. The problem is when those women that are being provided for and cared for by the state are then being remarried. This is all re-associating with men. My personal interaction with this is completely the opposite. I have never felt the need to come in and destroy the image of my stepchildren's, anyone who's been in that thing, father. This is a cowardly, subversive tactic that I've seen over and over and over again. In the case of my children's current stepfather, my children's mother's husband, I will withdraw everything because I assume that this was primed by the actions of his previous spouse or his previous partner, his children's mother. Which is a large thing because he has trespassed into my life more than almost anyone on earth, but at the same time has provided a level of care and protection for my children. This in itself should show how much my concern is just to prevent this happening at scale in the future to bring this is it's 8 years of my life has been affected by this. 8 years. 8 years of energy, resources, building, research, everything. 8 years I've had to educate myself in psychology to be able to fluently speak this language, to bring this to light. It is a condition that needs to be addressed. I seek no retaliation from my mother's boyfriend. But my mother's boyfriend. I seek no charges. I just seek to have this acknowledged, that this is clearly what is going on, and this is not healthy. This is not how we build a healthy society. There is an intuitive, intrinsic capacity and ability that is invoked the moment you become a father. This is what I have been acting in. Unfortunately, in the case of stepfathers, this gets skewed. It clearly gets skewed down to just singly self-serving focus, because that is the place that fathers will provide for their children. I've always provided for my children by honing my self-serving abilities into something that parallel looks after and provides stability and structure and options for my children into the future. if this isn't addressed and recognised as a scourge and treated appropriately, not by just going after the person that's angry. If someone's angry in a situation, maybe we should ask them why they're angry and actually listen to them. This fact that anger, raising your voice, is being used as violence is the technique of almost every woman I've ever encountered. If you trespass into someone's territory, whether it be ideological or conceptual or physical, in my case, all of them have been trespassed into. That's going to create tension. I would put my hand on any Bible across the land and say that I have kept my cool. I have never acted up in physical violence. I have never done any retaliatory destruction of property or anything like that. I haven't done anything. I've sat in my shed that I built and spoken my mind. This is something that needs immediate attention. Thank you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we all this morning? Are we all having a fantastic morning? Well, that's very good. I'm so glad to hear this. You may have noticed I'm trying to look like a girly again this morning. And the reason for this, I'm trying to figure out. There's lots of ways I could explain it. Lots and lots and lots and lots. I'm going to turn the fan off. Now, if I was being a scaredy coward, like self-protection, trying to be like, hey, I'm just an actor. And I don't know, possibly, I don't seem, there's a little bit of, considering I'm a singer as well, there's a little bit of vocal stuff, but not a lot. And that's because I suppose my voice kind of does like some, it's got a big, it does a lot of things because I use it a lot, which in every other profession would be called practicing or rehearsing, except apparently if you're trying to, whoa, sorry, say that? You just caught me wince, because there was a mouse. There was a mouse in my house this morning. This has started badly. Let's start again. I've only had one sip of coffee, so let's have a little bit more coffee. Don't do too much of my voice. There is some things going on with my voice. But yeah, the easy way out would be to say, well, I'm acting. And I'm going to be honest with you fully, like this is how it is with me. And this is called science. Unlike the psychiatrists out there, I am observing myself deeply, rather than putting people in windowless rooms and giving them pills and prescriptions and directions and then seeing how they all do. I'm just observing my own self because that's moral, that's morally right. Whereas experimenting on other people is morally wrong. Extremely morally wrong, especially if, just not especially, we don't even need to get to especially if it doesn't work. It's like, well, in an experiment, you're assuming that at least some portions of the experiment aren't going to work to what your desired results are. And you're not really sure whether the things that might work, whether you've done them or whether the person's done them despite your interference. So people that have a MAC, amazing recoveries from, say, mental health disorders, whilst under treatment, they really deserve a whole lot of praise because they're doing it despite the interference from narcissistic, manipulative, psychopathic people that are experimenting on humans. In possibly the scariest way possible. When you're dealing with the mind, it's hard enough when it's just you, let alone if there's a professional in the room. So there should just be an instruction to do this, and we have the tools to do this. It's what's missing? Well, in the process of me doing this publicly, because the fact that I'm doing it publicly, because I was born into this and I can see the severity and the dangers of it, I also understand that gives me the courage to do this publicly, which most people would never in a million years do. And that's actually not probably part of a good, for most people that might be not a good strategy, but they could do it on their own. And that's what I'm trying to show. By experimenting and by exposing myself to danger and to all the things that they are being forced to do. If your family gathers around you and ships you off to a mental hospital, more than likely that's the worst fear of that individual manifesting. And in my interpretation, they're probably expecting it. And they're probably testing you to see whether you'll do that. And so by the time you get to the professional, unless it's self-done, and then the self-done is complicated because they're racing to an external source when really they should be shown really, really good examples of people exploring themselves and maybe follow that. Probably not publicly, but if they see somebody doing it publicly, then they may have the confidence to do it privately. And this has nothing to do with being a girl or that's not the point. I'm just doing that because this has come up, and so this responsibility means I have to do most things this way so that you can see the whole broad spectrum of what the potentials of. Oh, that was frustrating. Despite all my efforts this morning, the data ran out. Yeah, what I say is we'll see the. Anyway, oh god damn it. It's not specifically to do with this gender thing that I'm playing around with. It's more just observing somebody being mindful. Plus, you don't have to do this bit. Although, I think it's very beneficial. And the main thing is, like, you can still do this and you don't have to share it. I'm sharing it because I can, because I've basically, the way to say it is, like, I've been trying to fix this thing since I can remember, because I've known that something was wrong with the way my mother was being treated since I can remember. This and this in any other condition, whether it be diabetes or heart disease or fucking, I don't know, Parkinson's disease, would be getting taken a lot more seriously. And not even more seriously, because that might not be true, but there would be a natural empathetic reaction that would be nice. The fact that it's mental health and that mental health disorders have been, the strategies have been used, has been to push those individuals out of sight, out of mind, like I said yesterday. This is why the continued response from my friends, family, and professionals and everyone, despite me, the professionals especially, because I'm criticizing them deeply from being born into the little fucking cult. So at some point, these degenerate fucking psychopath fucking spawn that are emerging from our universities are going to have a public conversation with me. Aren't they? Yes, they are. Like, of course you're going to, and you're not, and you're avoiding it, and you're pushing it out of sight, out of mind. And I'm exposing the strategy that has been used for hundreds of years. And your new pharmaceutical addition to this strategy is incredibly flawed. Because of course it is. Because it's not a strategy, it's bullshit. And yes, I have the benefit of these tools and these services and these distribution devices, which is pretty much the game changer. Because I think individuals in the past have done what I'm doing, but the smart decision would be to not add something to your plate. You might escape the thing, but you don't want to add that, I've escaped, but I don't want to go and fucking pull the whole place down. That's too dangerous. I've already escaped. And that took me every single piece of my mind, body, and soul to get out of that prison, of that mental prison that I was perhaps in because of conditions in my life, and then maybe kept in because of this profession's rhetoric. So I'm out, I'm cool with it. I'm not going to go back in and try and either save people or to tear down the walls. But that, as I said, when I was a child, I didn't know. I was like, I don't think this is right. I want to help. Because they were like, there isn't a cure, this is lifelong. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. I don't believe that people would just be born wrong. I just don't believe that. I look around and I don't see that. When I see things that are wrong, it's something to do with their environment, usually. If I see a tree that's not doing well, and it's usually in the shade of another tree, or it's getting fucking poison, or it hasn't got enough nutrients, and the same with animals. It's failure to thrive, and failure to thrive in this modern day is majoritively caused by the actions of other human beings, or by the environments that other human beings are providing for you or are adjusting. And if I consider that entire psychiatric profession to be one of the largest restricting mechanisms, then I will talk about it, because I have removed myself, thrived, and now I'm coming back. The reason it is being mistreated is just because of mob thing. It's like you're going along, normalcy. You're doing what everyone's been doing for a long time. If someone's different, you push them out. But the problem is that everyone's different. And that we live in a world where there's more different people around us than there's ever been before. And we're constantly told how we have to look at people that are different in a different way. And we have to put aside our maybe deep, intrinsic fear of something that's different and welcome these people in. Now, the difference between, say, someone who might be displaying what the psychiatric community has called mental illness, and say large groups of foreign cultures coming into your country, town, space, workplace, obviously is the fact that we're dealing with an individual as opposed to a cultural group. The cultural group has built-in mechanism. That's actually what culture is. The culture is the group, is the culture. If you see culture, as opposed to just like you might see skin color and all these things, which might lead you, that's almost like the thing of, and that's, I think, maybe what the girl thing, what the makeup, whatever it might be about, is I'm trying to, and I'm not trying to jump into the LGBTQ trans fucking thing for sanctuary, because they've done a lot wrong themselves. I'm an individual. Tomorrow I might wear a fucking hunting cap, you know, and grow a big mustache. I've got no idea, because I'm an individual trying to cultivate my own individual culture. And the strangest part about this is I'm an individual, and yes, I am a man, and we do have a historic hierarchy in my culture based on men, on the fathers. And so I actually, technically, am the head of my family. In every not every, but almost every culture, except now my own, that would be understood and respected. But in my own, it is not. It is being the lowest form of, it's not just not being respected, it's being attacked by the very individuals that I have protected and provided for, because I have gone outside what the culture that is meant to keep all those people together has divided us all and attacked the heads of the families unless they toe the line. And so the difference between, I'm not doing great this morning. I'll leave all that there, and I'll go on to what it was I wanted to say about the female thing. And I'll map out as much as I can what I believe this female situation is in myself. And if that is helpful to anyone doing the same thing, then that's good. But it is not to be assumed that anyone else may have the same. It's just it's like a precedent. It's like, you either go, that sounds a little bit similar, and it assists you, or you go, that's different, or you should just, it should be suggestive, not prescriptive. Anything that's gleaned from what I'm saying. There are a few things going on. The feminization in myself is because I believe I'm getting to a point where, based on hostilities enacted onto me and my defensive mechanisms and postures and persona that was elevated due to the attacks on myself, over a prolonged period now, it's like almost 3 years. And I think it is 3 years. 2021, 3 years, December, the end of the year. Yeah, that was when the mandates were on, it just blows my mind. To have 3 years of your life dedicated and attacked and it takes a toll. And I, although never acting out, did have to go to a place that I didn't even know existed inside me. Well, I kind of did. I used to fight my brother when we were young children quite intensely, and we were quite savage. But we were children. to be pushed to that as a man and have to hold all of that in and project thousands and thousands of years of warfare honed in my DNA through my mouth was amazing. Like it's I mean, there's things. It's intense, and to be finally doing that on my own was very intense. I mean, I don't think there is a more intense feeling to feel as a man, or as anyone. I do not think there can be a worse situation to be put in life. Unless that included prolonged physical torture would be the only thing. And that, and it does actually do that, because the physical torture ends up kind of being, prolonged physical torture on top of that would have been the only way that could have been worse. I think on top of it, the fact that I knew I was doing the right thing, that it was aligned with my entire lifetime, with my father's, all my father's advice, all my everything, and in service and protection of my children. And the solution to leave is so easy. I could have left so easily. I had the resources, I had everything. I could have left my family so easily. That is a feeling that is hard to describe. It feels like it does. If I go to it in my mind, it does feel like kind of like physical torture. It's like daily. It's like every moment running into a spear. And the way I would describe it is, it's like dying 1,000,000 times. I cannot understand how I'm not dead. My body, my mind, everything cannot understand how I'm not dead. Because every day I hit the most dangerous, the most thing I did not want to do almost every day. I did for 3 years. And we haven't adapted to these things yet, so I can't understand how I'm not dead. And unlike an author who knows, unless somebody breaks in and steals his writings, he may feel the same thing, but I'm saying it to the people. I'm saying it directly to them, and I cannot understand how I'm not dead. I don't understand how this rift is floating in the air. The only explanation is that avoidance has been adopted as the strategy of choice by our entire leadership, everything. Avoidance and failure to adapt to the new technologies. So what, for me personally, this is and I've described this before, it's a de-elevation in that intense masculine ferocity that does end historically in bloody murder or savage bloody murder, is what was provoked in me by thousands and thousands of people. And then on top of that, they then left me to rot publicly and did nothing. And this wasn't continually provoked in any of them. It only took the one event to sever my connection with your society. And not one person, and I'm sorry if you did, I'm saying it for effect a little bit, but it is kind of true, not one person, it's like it didn't change. And this is why I'm attacking directly the Premier. It's like it landed in your lap and you left it. And the fact that I'm doing it publicly means that there are thousands of people doing it privately. And that is why the absolute fucking disgust was displayed from me in relation to you and your party, because that is the worst of the worst. To be getting told and then continue on is worse than just further. If you're going to conquer a place, then fucking conquer it, yeah? Don't leave it hanging in this perpetual limbo. And if the intention was experimentation, then that again gets to some weird areas where, like, well, we have to see how this little guinea pig's advice goes, don't we? But I will never thank you for that, because there was a million other ways this could have been done. The fact that it had to be done this way, or that it will be done this way, shows how disgusting the strategy of the psychiatric profession is, because it removed the voice. They were put somewhere where you can't hear their screams. That's a dungeon. So in 2025, when we have kitty litter trays being wheeled out to classrooms so that children can defecate in kitty litter trays and pretend that they're foxes, we have dungeons with people that are being more than likely attacked, ostracized, bullied by the closest people in their life, and then those people are putting them in dungeons where they can't hear their screams. And the psychiatric profession are the wardens of that Arkham Asylum prison. So for me, the feminizing is, in a lot of cases, for your sake. And although you may laugh and you may mock, like my children's stepfather, like my actual children, and like my children's mother, and my own mother, you're mocking me. You're mocking me for presenting a more consumable, feminized persona in response to your constant voyeuristic obfuscation of responsibility and avoidance of the conversational conflict that you initiated. And when it results to a laugh, which it so often does, if I push people, there's a laugh. I experienced it the other day by my mum's boyfriend, and I experienced it by my children's mum's boyfriend. It's this laugh. It's like, ha ha ha, you're fucked, you've got no chance in it. That laugh is your subconscious going, I'm fucked, but I better just laugh. The laugh is like, I've got a big gang around me. You're just by yourself. I've got a big gang. That's what that laugh is. So yeah, the feminization is so that I don't come a fucking swinging with one of these. That's better, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's way better. And it's, for me, it's sustainable. Because it's going to be a long fight. And most of it's going to be done like this. It's going to be done by speaking, by exposing, by challenging, constantly. Just like chopping a tree down. I'm just going to hit you here, you're going to go there, and then I'm going to hit you there. And the place you were going to go back to is not going to be there anymore. I'm going to chop it again, chop, 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 until the entire psychiatric community is encircled and exposed. And on top of that, millions of people across the world are going to contribute to this without even knowing, by just being themselves and putting it on the internet. So the observation that you've had the privilege of, that you've captured people and observed them in confinement and while being tortured and manipulated by you in your environment. Now everybody has that ability to observe people. And you all do it, don't you? You get that little kick. If you're watching, go watch Britney Spears. Oh, she's fucking crazy. No, you're crazy for watching her and laughing and thinking that you're superior, because this experiment is called COVID-19. Everybody sees. So we can see you seeing Britney and thinking you're better than Britney Spears, not knowing that Britney Spears is a performer and that Britney Spears dancing around with knives and showing you exactly what tickles your little superiority thing is perhaps a performance. And you'll never know. But yours isn't a performance. You're being a voyeuristic, disgusting individual. And you're missing the greatest trick on earth. The greatest magic trick on earth. That we're watching the watchers everywhere. And now everybody is a watcher. So your power, your exclusivity to be able to sit and observe individuals in the throes of amazing capabilities of our defense mechanisms, which are initiated by an attack. If there's defense, they're initiated by an attack or by a condition of threat. So you're watching across the world. If you're a psychiatrist or a psychiatric hospital or anything like this, you're sitting there observing people that are displaying defense mechanisms because they've been attacked, brought to you, and you actually observing them is continuing the attack. So you are maintaining the abuse so that you can observe the reaction. Woo! For 50 years, for 60 years, for 70 years. At least the Nazis tried to take France. Well, they did take France. At least they took Poland, you know what I mean? They were just fucking methed up trying to do that. They were conquering knights, trying to expand their territory. They weren't cowardly, psychopathic individuals sitting watching people that are fucking defending themselves psychologically and then continuing the attack. That's fucked up. That's torture. That's some sick fucking shit. It's really some sick fucking shit. Now I say there needs to be an exit for the majority of very recent additions to the psychiatric community. That's a door there. It's a metaphorical door. I'm sure you're aware of metaphor and all these things. It should have been in your education. So that's a metaphorical door. You should leave that door now. If you've been in this industry for less than 10 years, you should now leave. You should walk out the metaphorical door and say, bye, guys. 90% of your skill set will be reusable in tons of different professions, and you will be able to actually help people with a lot of your skill set. You just need to get out of the dogma and the extreme doctrine of the techniques that have been being used. If you want to not be exposed as the worst industry on earth, as the most disgraceful profession known to man, then you should leave now. Okay? It's like you had a bad boss. You just went and you looked in the paper, you got a job, you started doing a job, you were delivering parcels, and then everything, all these lights and sirens went off, and you realized that you'd been delivering drugs. And you thought you were delivering tennis rackets or something like that. Happens all the fucking time. Why would you tell someone that there's drugs in the package? Why wouldn't you just hire someone and just say, here's a package, mate, you got to deliver it here? Which of course is going on. That would be 1,000 times better than what you're doing. Because you're actually you're in there, you're in the thing. Like you're the torture person. It's just you haven't consciously gone, hey, maybe this is torture. And that's because you've been indoctrinated. And because you're not mature enough yet to do those things. And you're hungry and you want to go out on the weekend and do drugs and have sex and drink and party down to DJ music, more than likely if you're in your 20s. And so you just don't have the maturity yet to realize that you are a warden in a torture chamber. And this is everybody. If you're dishing out drugs, or if you're doing the observation, or you're a nurse, or whatever, this will be you. So there's a door, right? Plenty of work out there. Plenty of different things. You may not have the same cushy little profession that you were promised, high-paying job, but that's a small price to pay for being given an exit before the fucking bomb explodes. Not a real bomb, a metaphorical bomb. Metaphor, remember? Isn't metaphor fun? So let's go into a little bit further into the feminine thing. There's lots of reasons. Okay? So it's to de-escalate the extreme masculine that I was provoked into as a defense mechanism by my friends, family, government, everyone. The next is I have had physical disorders either caused by my work. See, I've had work issues as well. So, yeah. Caused by my work, or my head injury, or a combination of both, or, to be even to take all of that away and go, well, I would sing I am an incredibly trained vocalist, and I would sing sitting down in a car, and that probably had some contribution to us as well. But in the retaking my body to be functional, I have to be so sensitive with every single movement and shape that my body will make. Also the fact that I'm an actor, the fact that I've used a mirror for that, and I'm constantly checking posture and alignment, different things from multiple angles. So my own looking down, and then my feeling, and then observing in the mirror. My desire for the feminine, probably, it's more consumable for me to look at a woman doing that in the mirror than it is for a man. Weird, eh? So that's why, that's another reason. Third reason is because it helps me understand women, which is an attempt to understand why these women have done this to me. Yeah? Which includes tons of nurses and doctors that are women. The majority of the actual damage in my life is done by women, sometimes initiated by men, usually initiated by men in a sneaky, weird little way. So there's that. And following on from that, there's lots of things I've discovered. But one of them is about, there is, like an interesting one. When I push into the feminine, it actually expands my awareness of being observed. And I think this is a pretty common thing. You're like, yeah, women are like that. That's what makeup. There's a lot of physical things, and it doesn't stop there. It's posture, it's movement, it's presentation, and it's always presenting as soft and graceful. And that grace is a display of efficiency. Because females do not have the same levels of testosterone which men do to produce power moves and large muscles that can compensate for form. The female composition pushes for grace and for efficiency. And because I've had such large issues with my body, grace and efficiency is my cure. I may one day be able to, once I get to a stable, original position, unfucked with, that's my goal, and I'll do whatever I have to get there. So looking female to constantly be primed to be efficient and graceful does just look feminine. Alrighty. I had to clear some storage. This is something I'm continuously getting better at doing because this is really hard. The majority of humans, people out there at the moment, are still in the mode where they'll buy a new phone when it's full of storage. I'm pretty sure Apple actually makes it a lot harder to manage all your storage and all your things than my Google phone does, because they want you to continuously keep buying it. My phone at the moment is fucked. Half the screen doesn't work, but I'm still able to do all these things. And I'm constantly finding new ways to optimize this, and in weird different ways, because I'm trying to constantly figure out, what am I doing? Am I making a movie, a documentary, or am I writing a book, and is this preparation, or am I just, I don't know, or am I, a lot of this is actually just, as I've been saying the last couple of weeks, is public testimony based on a defense posture and that's happening. Like, that's what this is. It's public testimony to describe the perhaps unusual behavior and to explain why that has been activated. Because I'm being severely attacked constantly, as I said, for 3 years. And my mind boggles at at actually what I have to do compared to, say, 10 years ago, what I have to do to be able to do this. It'd be a little bit like, imagine if when you had to pay your registration, your car registration, if you had to go to the moon. Maybe the moon's a bit far. If you had to swim to Rottnest to pay your fucking car registration, people would be like, that's bullshit. That's where I'm at. Like, and in a way, I'm like, well, cool. Keep doing it. You're going to keep pushing me to be an amazing swimmer. And it gets weird. Like what I'm taking on now is probably like, it's more than 100 people's work in our government that are being paid pretty well, pretty decent wages. And that's what it's actually way more than that, but I don't want to sound like an absolute fucking, like, you know, I don't want to big note myself. It's not what it's about. I'm saying how crazy it is that this is the world they're trying to, not even trying to, that they're accidentally creating by their avoidance and by their attempt to control. The more you try and control, the more you will push individuals to not be controlled, which will mean that you will face single individuals that will put up the same fight as thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of other people that have gone along with the control. And this is what always happens. So you either you have the option to dispatch those individuals, which is made very hard now by the fact that everybody knows I'm doing it. And then you then trigger the thing in this. It's history. Open a book. It's what Jesus was on about. I think this is what Jesus knew. Really? Because I don't actually think it's that hard to figure out. It just takes a lot of commitment. You have to be willing to die. That's what that story is all about. And I think, I'm like, well, I can't believe I'm still alive. But that's what he promised, wasn't it? I died for your sins. Because everybody now knows that if you do it again, you're going to make Jesus take two. You're going to make Jesus a sequel. And I think a lot of people are at step one. They're like, oh, if I tell my boss that I don't want to do that, I'm going to be martyred. No, it takes ages, and you can push really fucking far before you're going to be martyred. And I don't even know. I don't know where the line is. I don't really want to find it. Well, yeah, well, I mean, if I find out I'm killed, that's where I'm at. Daily, I go, right, what can I do the most at that will potentially get me killed, but what can I do be the most effective at daily without being stupid? And this is the strength and the reason for the importance of free speech, because it's the most glorious thing you can imagine. If we get to a fact where speech is always protected, especially independent speech, which is all I'm doing. If you happen to wander in and observe it, then that's on you. And the power of that is unbelievable. This is why it is so highly valued, and why its attack on free speech has been so responded to with this ferocity. And to anyone trying to do that, what I offer you is free speech. Tell me why free speech should be taken away with your free speech. Isn't that a paradigm fucking enigma fucking... No, both of those words are wrong. Isn't that a enigma? I think enigma is the right word. You want to take my speech, I defend my speech and offer you speech to tell me why you want to take it away. Then all you need to do is go one step further, right? So imagine your frustration. Oh, they shouldn't be able to say that. They shouldn't be able to say that. That's speech. You're trying to take the most valuable thing that I possess free speech away from me. You are, if you're saying that I shouldn't be able to say that. You're saying you're trying to take something. You're saying I'm taking something from someone by saying you're trying to take something from me, my most precious asset, by saying that. Now, I'm not going to stop you from trying to say it. I'm going to stop you from trying to do it, because you're in a little trap there, because you're using speech to try and take my speech and not yours. And if yours is taken, you can't even say it, so we don't get there, and I end up maintaining free speech. So what was I saying before I got interrupted by my phone running out of data? Was grace, efficiency. This, I believe, is the majority of what most people consider feminine. And it's a biological imperative, because biologically, women do not possess the same access to testosterone, which will bolster up and push up their muscles and things and their just everything to a level where you can go power, which is compensation. So power will push you through proper form. Because it's life or death. And this is male animals across the world will quite often severely injure themselves, sometimes by their own actions, to either escape or to combat a threat. So when we're pushed into threat, we will be, men specifically, will be pushed to overcompensate using power above proper form to defend themselves or their family. Now, in my case, I would consider this to be the economic situation that we are born into is immediately a threat. We're born into threat. If you become a father, you are raising your children into a threat. So you are immediately overcompensating using power to defend or provide or protect or whatever your family. Which in my words means I was overcompensating. I was using power and I was whipped in the form of scarcity and economic insanity in my job. And my job required lifting and moving heavy things around, in which I overcompensated using power and speed to kind of get the thing over proper form, because of the threat, and I was kept in that. And that was the condition to which my children's mother became accustomed to. She became accustomed to having an individual, a male individual, that will provide and protect for her in constant threat. And when it wasn't done to the thing, she found somebody else and then tried to dispatch the old one by putting constant threat and scarcity on her new one. And the new one just hasn't stepped outside of it. So he's destroying his body and his mind by constantly being in threat and compensating with power and speed, probably literally, to provide for the demanding female, which is demanded by the demanding female culture, which is piped out around the world to whip everyone into line. Self-perpetuating insanity. There is no longer somebody whipping us behind. The system itself is whipping us, and it's done too much whipping. Too much whip is leading to these things. And biology and nature, Mother Nature or Father Nature. I'm just going to start calling it Father Nature, just to fucking piss you all off. So Father Nature has it's not going to keep this forever. It's going to adapt. It's going to push people to adapt. And what are they going to do? It's going to just push people to just to adapt. This happens on Jurassic Park. The frog DNA has pushed the animals to become hermaphrodites. I don't know whether my body is actually going to fully go the whole hog of hermaphrodizing my body. But it's giving it a good old fucking go. It's doing the prep work. Yeah, it's cleared the site. It's put the surveying pegs down. It's like, this little baby fucking monkey here has quite a job on its hands. It's being completely dispossessed by its entire culture. It's going to have to breed with itself. Yeah. I don't think the chemicals and things are helping us. But I do think the fear of those things is leading to some misinterpretation of what's going on. The largest threat to my life, consciously or unconsciously, I don't ever consider as plastic or global warming, or even like climate change, or even environmental destruction. Well, environmental destruction is one of them, but it's more soil destruction and it's clearing of land and desertification. I know very well, and I can see every day, and I consciously am aware of it. But still, other human beings is by far, by a factor of 1,000, is other human beings, and so that's what I'm adapting out of. It's yet to be seen whether that adaptation is going to be successful or not. But the hermaphrodization of my body, mind, soul, everything, is caused by all of you. And I think the attraction that we have to androgynous individuals, which I experience, a lot of people experience, is why all our rock stars are androgynous. I think this has played out over and over and over and over again in society. So society pushes people to hermaphrodize, to leave hermaphrodize, and then hermaphrodites or androgynous appearance and behavior is hyper attractive to individuals stuck in the original binary thing. And so I have to use some of this. I'm just expanding on this trans thing and then bringing it back to reality. Like, it's not just in kind of theory, these things are okay. Like, in theory, these societal threats will push people to adapt to all types of things. So this furry phenomenon, all this experimentation done by individuals, in theory is real. I just think for thousands of years now, it's always stopped at this. It's stopped at the hermaphrodization, at the androgynous, at people being dispossessed, that provoking the hermaphrodization, and then the androgyny being hyper attractive to the others, and splitting the genders anyway, so it's attractive to men and women, and then that, I think, just brings society back. I think that would be my assumption of what's going on. And when I say this, there's almost like a knowing that that's there, but it's just veiled a little bit by it's so apparent that I think it obscures that. And then when it's there, you're like, oh yeah, of course. That just happens over and over again. It's Mick Jagger. And I'm not saying I'm Mick Jagger. I'm saying I've been Mick Jaggered by you all. And a lot of them are saying that. Who Made Who is one of my favourite. It's not one of my favourite. I just love the song by AC/DC. It's Who Made Who. And I think he's just saying, he's like, you did this to me. He's like, you fucking all did this to me. And you're all just like, and then again, you get to this thing why musicians, especially why they like sometimes hostile towards their own fans, because fans is the wrong word. It's like, it's not the wrong word. It's just the mechanism at play. Society oversteps, individuals that leave society, adapt. They quite commonly adapt hermaphrodization, whether fully, fully sometimes, I don't think, and that's where it's like, oi, if you cunts are trying to push me into full hermaphrodization, you better give me a fucking island somewhere, yeah, where I can do that in peace now, because I think it's like you've started a process now that's not going to, well, I don't know whether it reverts either. I'd be quite happy. Give me an island with all my resources. Give me about, I don't know, 50-50 split, about 20 people, half men, half women, all of age, and I'll figure it out. I don't think you can do that, because you don't want that. You don't know what's coming back, do you? You leave this fucking thing on an island with 20 people. I might come back with, you just don't want to do that. So it's like, I think we're just at the stage where it's like, and it's not just me, there's tons of people. It's just, in my particular case, because they knew, and they use this, why they use the pride thing, why they use the trans community to try and capture the thing. But they didn't realize that overuse then just puts another pressure on me to be the largest conservative display, like it just pushes again, because it's about the pressure. And you know, I probably would have given it a go as well if I knew about it all, which you all did, I'm assuming. So you're like, okay, right, we push society, and then it pushes this hermaphrodization, androgynous individuals will emerge. And then if we push all those homogenous things, we can then control the world using those androgynous people. And we're going to do it all planned, but there was too many of them. So then that cohort of them then pushed onto me pressure. So I got a double dose. Just sitting here trying to fucking do my job and look at be a dad and all these things. I'm like, fuck, I'm getting double dosed with all this societal pressure. It's like you can't shortcut biology, obviously, and human adaptation and human societal stability. It will always win, and it will win for what biologically, environmentally, societally is stable. All biology is optimized to slow down entropy. This is one of the most beautiful lessons I've ever learned. Entropy in humanity is death. Entropy in society is death of culture, or in a weirder sense, it's homogenization, monoculturalization of society, which is destabilizing. And this is where we do need diversity, but you can't use diversity as the largest hammer in the world for the only nail, because once you're using diversity, this is weirdly, think about this craziness that I'm talking about here. You can't use diversity as the technique, because if you are all using diversity, then you're not being diverse. I was describing something to my girlfriend about the way I kind of look at the world sometimes. And I think sometimes in time and in life, there's these, say we're all an individual thread, I actually think humans all possess this ability at some level. It's what level you actually attempt it. I think there is an ability for human beings, if confident enough and if empowered enough to do so, in the future they can tie a knot in all those threads. So if you imagine a bunch of pieces of wool or string and they're all kind of going into the future like that, and you've got your past and that's you're an individual thread, right? Now, if all of those individuals have the ability to tie a knot in all the threads somewhere in the future, that will mean that all the individuals are continuing on their journey, but they will all hit and go pass through that knot and then continue on back to their thing. That is what I believe in certain individuals, and that's, I believe, what I've done. And I believe I can describe it many ways and go, I did have a extraterrestrial experience 8 years ago, but that could be a spiritual experience. It could be a evolutionary experience. It could be a subconscious. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't dare say that I do. But I didn't really even know, but what I did is tie a knot in the future. And as I get closer and closer and closer and closer to that knot, I've been more and more aware of the fact that I tied that knot. And you were all probably evolutionary, like you're all fighting that. You're like, no, he's crazy. He's like, cut his thread, cut it out. What you don't realize, say I die, say I do kill myself, like I could have done, like a lot of people do, you're then left still with that, and you're left with the knot's still there. That's a little bit metaphysical, but yeah, it's a thing that I think happens, and it comes from responsibility. If you have the responsibility of being a father and you have all this intuitive, intrinsic capacity and desire is probably not the right word, responsibility thrust upon you, especially at a very young age. Because that was thrust upon me at age 20, my knot is the 20-year-old knot. Or the 20-year-old foundation that has then been polished and added to with the commitment made at 20. So that's 18 years now of commitment to a structure where the cornerstone, where the foundation block was laid almost 20 years ago. So the commitment to that project has led to the pressure to educate and to hone and to polish down that original concept laid down just out of teenagerhood. So I've always known that I'd be roughly around about 40 with children the same age as I was when I first had them, and when I laid down this plan. When I laid down the foundation, which is that's this patriarchy nonsense that you talk about. And although sometimes I've felt the desire to cast individuals out of my structure, that's never an option for me. It may have been perceived as that. So in the case of my children's mother, where I left, it may have been perceived as I've abandoned her. I didn't abandon you, ever. I didn't abandon our children. You wanted freedom, you wanted autonomy, you were pushing for it constantly, you wanted your own life, you wanted to build it your way, and you wanted to do that. And so I separated us and enabled you to do that. And in that life, you disregarded me, you threw me overboard, and you killed your children's father, or you attempted to, metaphorically and really, you really did. To ostracize someone to this level is murder. It's attempted murder. I'm not going to push an attempted murder charge. I'm not going to push that. I'm just going to make you aware of it. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And until you've experienced, you cannot talk about it. But maybe for a second, you could attempt to put yourself in my shoes. And instead of assuming constantly what my intentions are, perhaps you could apply your own intentions to myself when you think about what I'm doing. That's all I ask. Apply your own conscience, your own things to what I'm doing. Not much to ask. And stop assuming. It's the assumption that has led to all. You assumed I was out of control in my business and being irresponsible, when in fact I was being the most responsible I've ever been financially in my entire life, which was quite energy intensive, which was quite intense during a time where I was being attacked. And then you attacked me. So yeah, it's fucking crazy. But look at all the positive things that have come from it. So we're lucky that that structure was solid and committed, unlike yours, because you've abandoned things. And if you abandon one person, then you've done the precedent. Well, then we can abandon everyone else. This is the accusation that I claim at my mother's family, who abandoned her. You outsourced your abandonment and then did the bare minimum to maintain a relationship. For some reason, probably just to prop up your own sense of that you haven't done that. That's what these psychiatric institutions do. They're like, would you like to abandon this disruptive member of your family and not feel like you've abandoned them? Then here we are. We're the psychiatric industry. That's our speciality. There are no disposable individuals. Mine is shown amazingly by my mother, who is the most disruptive individual in my life, yet not ever abandoned. Never. Church bells. Never abandoned. Never disposed of. Family. That's a family. That's a family. I don't know who initiated this all those years ago, but you all went along with it. And then you've tried it again. And then you've avoided it. You've pushed it out of responsibility. You've gone, well, just apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like, no, I'm not going to fall into your avoidant tactic. I'm going to free myself and I'm going to attempt to vilify my mother's mistreatment. And I'm going to expose the cowardly individuals that kept her there. And this is where I'll be a bit nasty. I do hope my voice rings in your ear on your deathbed. And I forgive you. But I encourage you to repent that evil deed continued on before you die. To face that before you die, whenever that comes. all of you,